At the White House today, Kanye West, the rapper, showed up in the Oval Office and proceeded to give what amounted to effectively a campaign speech while sitting directly across from the President of the United States and while pounding on the presidential desk. You've likely already seen pictures of what happened. It's everywhere. And the scene may have confused you. You might have concluded it was a publicity stunt staged by famous people in order to become more famous. You may have found yourself muttering about the debased and celebrity-centered focus of our public discourse these days. You may even have felt a little sad, knowing that the dignified country you grew up in is gone for good. You can be forgiven for reaching those conclusions, but they're not the whole story of what happened today. Believe it or not, Kanye West said some genuinely interesting things this afternoon, things we ought to be talking about in public, but are not. He'll probably destroy his career for saying them. He'll certainly be despised by many of his former friends. But before any of that happens, let's consider what he actually said. We'll go with the most offensive things first. Here they are.
You know, people expect that if you're black, you have to be Democrat. I have conversations that basically said that welfare is the reason why a lot of black people end up being Democrat. They say, you know, first of all, it's a limit to amount of jobs. So the fathers lose the jobs and they say, we'll give you more money for having more kids in your home. I think it's the bravery that helps you beat this game called life. You know, they try to scare me to not wear this hat, my own friends, but this hat, it gives me power in a way. You know, my dad and my mom separated, so I didn't have a lot of male energy in my home. You know, I love Hillary, I love everyone, right? But the campaign, I'm with her, just didn't make me feel as a guy that didn't get to see my dad all the time, like a guy that could play catch with his son.
She didn't make me feel like a guy who could play catch with his son. West didn't explain exactly what he meant by that, and yet at the very same time, he could not have put it more precisely or more poignantly. He grew up in a party whose policies have systematically destroyed the American family, especially in poor neighborhoods. I didn't have a lot of male energy in my home, West said with obvious sadness. Millions of American kids know exactly what he is talking about. The Democratic Party won't acknowledge these kids or their loss. To party leaders, fathers in the home are at best irrelevant. At worst, they're an impediment to political power. Married women tend to vote Republican, and they know that. When prominent Democrats attack the patriarchy, what they're attacking is fathers. When they wage war on toxic masculinity, what they're trying to suppress is masculinity itself. Everybody knows this. Few are brave enough to say it out loud. West essentially did, and then he kept going. Watch this.
So, and that's a move, one of the moves that I love that liberals try to do. The liberal would try to control a black person through the concept of racism because they know that we are very proud, emotional people. So when I said I like Trump to like someone that's liberal, they'll say, oh, but he's racist. You think racism can control me? Oh, that don't stop me. That's an invisible wall.
You think racism can control me? It's an invisible wall. The reporters looking on seemed stunned, even betrayed. And then just to rub it in, West went on to defend the Bill of Rights. Watch.
What about gun violence with all the debate about the Second Amendment going on?
The problem is illegal guns. Illegal guns is the problem, not legal guns. We have the right to bear arms.
What do we make of all of this? Well, obviously, just from watching, you can tell that Kanye West is an eccentric guy. He meanders. He talks like someone who's never had to filter his thoughts, which he probably never has had to do. But much like someone else who comes to mind, West may be precisely crazy enough to think for himself, and that's a valuable quality right now. No consultant advised him to say any of that. Clearly, nobody controls him. Sometimes he doesn't control himself. But listen carefully to what he said. Sprinkled throughout his ramblings are flashes of truth, real insights into the way the world actually is, rather than the way they tell us it is. Nobody else is allowed to talk this way. Go ahead and try it at work. You'll get fired. West doesn't care, and that makes him dangerous to a system that is based almost entirely on piety and lying. If you're benefiting from a system like that, Kanye West must be crushed. Here's the math of it. The Democratic presidential candidates, everyone who runs, needs to get almost the entire black vote in order to win a national election. That's not easy to do, so in order to do it, Democrats sow racial division. They pit Americans against each other based on their ethnicity. You can't support them. They're the wrong color. You hear that all the time. It's now the essential Democratic argument. It's destructive, but more ominously for Democrats, it may no longer be working. A poll by Public Broadcasting just last week found that Trump's approval rating with Hispanic voters is 41%. That's higher than it is with college-educated white voters. If anything like that ever happened among African American voters, the game would be over. So that can't happen. Kanye West must be destroyed. And so the thought police swooped in almost immediately to arrest this disobedient artist and declare him incompetent.
Wow. Okay, I'm doing this for everybody who's watching us who turned their volume down. You can put it back up again.
But if you think you're going to get a thoughtful play-by-play and political analysis, you're not. Because that was an assault on our White House.
It was a combination of stream of consciousness. I felt like I was sitting in on a psychiatric visit and a commercial for Donald Trump.
What I saw was a minstrel show today. Him in front of all of these white people, mostly white people, embarrassing himself and embarrassing Americans, but mostly African Americans.
Yeah, shut up, Kanye. You're crazy.
Shut up.
Keep in mind, this is coming from the same people who believe Hillary Clinton is entirely well, indeed a serious person. They're hoping this works, this crazy stuff, and that you believe them, and just in case you don't, they want to remind you that Kanye West is a race traitor, as Don Lemon just said, who has a low IQ. Here was CNN on Tuesday night.
Kanye West is what happens when Negroes don't read. And we have this now, and now Donald Trump is going to use it and pervert it, and he's going to have somebody who can stand with him and take pictures.
Kanye, because he's put on a MAGA hat and he's an attention whore like the president, he's all of a sudden now the model spokesperson. He's the token Negro of the Trump administration.
Got that? He can't read because he's the N-word. That's what the liberals on a liberal cable channel are now telling you. But they have no choice. They are terrified you will listen to what Kanye West is saying, and that's not allowed. Jason Nichols is a professor of African American Studies at the University of Maryland, someone who's followed Kanye West closely for years. He joins us tonight. So is it okay to say that you're the N-word and you can't read? Like, is that... I don't even...
Well, hold
is that
on,
allowed?
Tucker, he didn't say that he couldn't read. He said that he doesn't read.
Well, he's dumb. He's dumb because he's the N-word.
No,
and I'm not going to use on this show.
He did not call him the N-word.
He did.
He said Negro, which is different. It's an antiquated term, but it's not the N-word.
Look, if you said that if there was a meeting of black leaders with anybody and you said something like that, which I would never do because it's disgusting.
Sure hope not.
I never would.
Sure hope not.
But if you ever did say something like that, you'd lose your job so fast to make your head spin.
Well, again,
so, like, what is this? Is this okay? No, but hold on. You know exactly what's going on. Kanye West, like, I don't know anything about Kanye West. You do.
I do.
So I'm not an expert on the subject, but I know that you should be allowed to have an opinion that's different from the mob's opinion. The groupthink isn't mandated. No, truly. The mob on cable news. Like, it's okay to have a different view. It's all right if one guy disagrees. Okay?
Again,
and they use racial epithets and call them stupid and crazy? Like, what is this?
Well, number one, in terms of calling people stupid and crazy, that's something that the president has done several times to lots of African Americans.
Are we for that now?
So
I mean, no, but hold on. Like,
has done the exact same thing.
Okay, but I thought we were against that. I mean, they're attacking him on the basis of his race because he's deviating from the group.
But Tucker, call it out from your president. Kanye West, you know, and
Kanye, what does the president have to do with that? I'm just saying, I'm watching Don Lemon, but hold on.
Don Lemon, you know, come on.
I don't know. It's a major case. Is that okay? I guess that's what, look, I don't think it's okay when anybody does it. I don't care what color or party. I'm not into it.
My view on Kanye West is this. I have lots of sympathy and empathy for him. He and I actually have a lot in common. We both lost our mothers around the same time. I know how that's a stabilizing force in your family, and I think he does suffer from some mental illness as he was diagnosed with bipolar, even though he tried to undiagnosose himself.
But I thought
a lot of his ramblings were incoherent.
Okay, they were
and
incoherent.
that's what people are pointing out.
Okay, but some, I agree, some were incoherent, but some were totally coherent. You said, look, the Democratic Party's policies have wrecked the black family. That's true.
That's incorrect.
Right, okay, we can argue. Look, there's a lot of social scientists. We can have a separate.
Sure.
But that's an actual position that people who study it for the course of their lifetimes believe. That's not a crazy perspective. A lot of people think that. I think that. I'm not crazy.
Yeah, no, you're not. But I think that.
So why is it over the line when he says that?
Well, I think a lot of people are also disappointed
Why?
And I think they're disappointed because Kanye held certain positions early on in his career that he was almost like a folk hero in the African American community, particularly in the hip hop community.
When he called George W. Bush racist, but you're allowed to change your views. I've changed my views on almost everything because America's changed. So don't we want that? See, what this is not, I don't care about Kanye West. And I don't actually care about any political party. What I care about is the freedom to think for yourself and to tell the truth as you see it.
Yeah, and he has.
But why are we attacking him for that?
Well, no, I mean, you on this show every night, as you've said, I have the right to have an opinion upon people that voice their opinion.
I totally agree, but I'm just saying, and so we're attacking this guy as crazy and an N-word who can't read and stupid, and he's like a traitor to his race because he's got a view that's different from the majority. Like, that's a fascist position. Like, we should encourage people to think for themselves, shouldn't we?
No, we absolutely should, but what they're trying to say, and I think what Bakari Sellers meant by him not reading, not that he couldn't read, but that him not reading is that he didn't have an understanding of some of the things that he talks about. He hasn't actually read and thought these things through.
Rather than rebut it and say, well, here's the information I have that shows that welfare has not hurt the black family. It's actually strengthened it. Okay, show me the info. It's like, you're crazy, you're stupid, you're a traitor to your race. It's like, you can't have an honest conversation when people
even some of the things that he said, when he talked about welfare today. He talked about, things that hadn't been in place since 1990.
No, well, he's not a policy expert, but I don't know. It's just this weird.
You don't get more money for having more children. That's been phased out. That was phased out with TANF by Bill Clinton, and he's still stating it, which means that he is not up on the issues that he's espousing.
There's one issue. You have a famous person who's not a policy, but he's thinking for himself, and that's not allowed.
But the president brings him in to talk policy. That's troubling.
Yeah, I guess.
Bring in some guys.
No, he brought him in to illustrate how totally intolerant the left is, and he succeeded.
No, as I said, I love Kanye. I want him to actually get himself together. No?
Okay, we got to go. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Tucker.
Well, the rage against Kanye West wasn't simply on television, it was all over Twitter. Tariq Nasheed said this: Kanye West is exactly how people who benefit from the system of white supremacy like to see black men groveling, buck dancing. I can't even read that. It's such crap. And it's so mean, too, by the way. Someone else called Samuel Singawane added, quote, Kanye is that one black friend every white racist person talks. You know what? I'm going to stop reading this because it's too nasty and go right to our guest. Christopher Harris is Executive Director of Unhyphenated America. He joins us tonight. I just want to be clear, Mr. Harris, I've never met Kanye West. I never will. But I just think it's too mean to attack a guy just because he agrees with you on like that personal basis, that you're a traitor to your race. Like, who talks like that?
Well, the left talks like that, Tucker. I mean, you look at Donna Brazile recently, just what she, one of those nasty tweets, she tweeted out that Kanye West has set black folks back 155 years. I mean, isn't that amazing? One individual who has an opinion that's different from the black collective somehow is going to set black folks back into the slavery years. I guess they're expecting at any moment now plantations are just going to pop up all over America. But, if that were to happen, it would be Democrats trying to put us back on the plantations that they own.
But does it help? I mean, does it help anybody, individuals or a large group of people, when you tell them you're not allowed to think for yourself, you have to take orders, and anyone who has a different thought should be punished? I mean, it's hard to succeed in life if you're not having independent thoughts, isn't it? Or maybe it's not.
Oh, absolutely. And the left is nothing if not hypocritical. I mean, let's jump out to Hollywood. Let's talk about Alyssa Milano. A few months back, she talked about having a mental illness. What's the difference between Alyssa Milano and Kanye West? Well, one, I mean, Alyssa Milano is a D-list actress, and Kanye is a musical genius and hip-hop superstar. But they both have a mental illness. So are we now, is it okay to attack people for having a mental illness if they hate Donald Trump? I mean, is that
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not a
shrink.
Like I can't assess. He seems like an eccentric guy to me. So are half of my friends. I mean, but that's not the point. The point is, shouldn't you assess what people say on its own terms? If I make a claim and you attack my family, you're not really addressing the claim, are you?
Well, see, and that's what happens with the left all the time. They don't have a leg to stand on. What Kanye is talking about is the fact that, listen, regardless of the color of your skin, things are better for people in America. People of different ethnicities are more economically free today than they were before. Ask yourself, what can you not do today in America as a black person that you could do when Obama was president? Nothing. In fact, there's more black businesses starting. Their families are strengthening. People go around and they're talking like, hey, things are actually getting better. And I want to point out one thing real quick, Tucker.
Yeah,
Did
we're
you
almost
notice
at time.
that?
Maybe with it.
You notice that they had Jim Brown in there right next to Kanye West, but you notice they're too scared to talk about Jim Brown, but they'll try to go after Kanye West.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just for freedom of thought. That's it. Independent of any individual. Christopher, thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Tucker.
Amazingly, we're less than 4 weeks away from Election Day. So we're taking a close look at some of the candidates in some of the country's closest races. Our first such investigation is after this break. We hope you'll stick with us. Amazing. Too much going on to digest. So as we move closer to Election Day, we're going to take a closer look at particular races and the candidates running in them. Tonight we want to tell you about Kyrsten Sinema. She's running as a Democrat to replace Jeff Flake in the U.S. Senate in Arizona. Illegal immigration has long been an important issue in that state, which shares a long and largely undefended border with Mexico. Sinema in this race has tried to portray herself as a moderate on that question, someone who supports both amnesty for illegal aliens, but also more robust border security. There is growing evidence, though, that she is not a moderate, at least by American standards. In 2006, Sinema declared that illegal aliens who die trying to sneak into our country are morally equivalent to Americans dying in the Iraq War. Here's part of the quote. To state that immigration is not a war or is not equal in magnitude to war, I believe dishonors those who have died in this country and others as migrants. The deaths that people suffer in the Mexico-Arizona desert are the same as the deaths that people suffer in the Iraq desert. They are needless, senseless deaths. That's not a mainstream position, even now in the middle of the revolution we're going through. 3 years after she said that, Sinema described her position on immigration laws this way, quote, I oppose all of them. So if you think that foreigners breaking your country's laws are every bit as good as the citizens dying to defend them, it's possible you may have a problem with your own people, your own countrymen, the citizens of your nation. And Sinema certainly seems to have a problem with them. Here she is in 2011.
For the past several years, people would watch what was happening in Arizona and be like, damn, those people are crazy. Is it something about the water? No, the water's fine. We stole it from Colorado. There's nothing wrong with the water. They're called Republicans.
Charlie Hurd is the opinion editor at the Washington Times, and a very smart man, if we can say, joins us tonight. Charlie, things have changed so much that this is not disqualifying, saying that the deaths of illegal aliens in the desert trying to break our laws are morally equivalent to the deaths of our soldiers fighting in Iraq. 3 years ago it would have been over. Does this hurt her at all, do you think?
I certainly hope it does, but you raise a very good point. And what we've seen, everybody talks about what the Tea Party has done to the Republican Party, and I think there was some very healthy stuff there in terms of forcing Republicans to sort of get back to some of their principles. But my goodness, what we're seeing happen to the Democratic Party, a once legitimate party that we relied on to keep the Republicans honest, and or the supposedly conservative party honest, and to challenge them, they're getting dragged so far to the left, off the cliff, that I don't know. That certainly would not hurt her in a Democratic primary in any way whatsoever. I do think that it might hurt her in a general election. I mean, a lot of what she said there, it's kind of hard not to conclude that she hates America. And if you hate our borders and you hate the laws enforcing our borders, then you kind of, by definition, hate America. And that seems to be the campaign she's running on, and then especially if you think about running against somebody like Martha McSally, who is at the very least has served her country,
a career military officer,
and who's made a joke of the fact that Sinema brags about having 100 pairs of shoes, and McSally brags about 100 combat missions. Whether you agree with those foreign wars or not,
right.
And I have a real problem with them. Whether you agree with them or not, the idea that you would compare the sacrifices that our men and women have made in following the orders of the military to illegals crossing the border and dying trying to break our laws and get into the country, it's astonishing.
It's pretty decadent, and it shows you how much Arizona has changed because of immigration that she has a shot. Charlie Hurd, thank you as always. I hope you come back on this stuff. Well, the battle over Brett Kavanaugh is over, but the left has not moved on. The View, the TV show that ABC keeps on the air, says that no proof is needed to call Kavanaugh a racist. This is the opinion of their in-house lawyer. Plus, supposing literally all immigration laws likely will not endear you to normal people, Kyrsten Sinema seems to be proud of it, though, and that puts her perfectly in step with the consensus in Washington, D.C. That's the subject of a brand new book called Ship Fools, which you can buy pretty much anywhere. We'll be right back. It's gone to the Supreme Court, but the left's anger over that is not even close to ending. Pretty soon it'll be so bad we'll need the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to investigate it. Today on The View, to name one example, a person identified as a legal analyst called Sunny Hostin proclaimed that when it comes to sexual assault, due process plays no role. Watch this.
After 40 years, we finally changed the law. We finally said a woman's word is enough. I've taken many cases to trial with just a woman's word.
Every single woman needs to be heard, because more often than not, women are correct. But Sunny, you are insinuating that evidence doesn't matter. And as a lawyer, evidence should always matter.
Testimony is evidence. You don't need corroborating evidence. You don't need a rape kit. You don't need witnesses, because oftentimes, guess what? There are no witnesses during rape. So when you're talking about evidence, testimonial evidence is the very best in our system.
Alan Dershowitz spent decades teaching at Harvard Law School. He knows something about due process. He's the author of the book, The Case Against Impeaching Trump, and he joins us tonight. Professor, thanks for coming on. So you just heard a very specific legal claim that it is now the law in the United States that, and I'm quoting, a woman's word is enough. That's it. Is that true?
Technically, it is true. The law was changed some years ago, and I think it was a good change, that you don't need corroboration to make a case. So that if a woman who was raped immediately goes to the hospital, gets a rape kit, identifies her assailant, knew her assailant previously, certainly her word would be enough. But if it's 35 years old, if her main witness said no, she wasn't there, if there are inconsistencies in the story, then obviously the testimony of the woman, though technically sufficient, would not be enough to convince any reasonable fact finder beyond a reasonable doubt. Just think of the case today. Harvey Weinstein, I consulted briefly on one of the email issues in that case, had the main accuser's accusation against him dismissed today because evidence came out that a detective suppressed that the main accuser had told a friend that she had willingly and voluntarily engaged in oral sex with Harvey Weinstein in order to be cast in a role, having previously sworn under oath, presumably, that he forced her to have sex. So women do lie. Women lie for economic reasons. I agree that most women tell the truth, but most isn't enough to convict somebody. You need proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So technically, Sunny Hostin, who's a good lawyer, is correct. But practically, if you have elements that cast doubt on the word of the woman, then corroboration certainly helps strengthen the case.
So you're allowed to doubt a woman's word. That's still legal. Is this a sex-selective question? Is it, do we believe women more than we believe men?
First of all, not only are you allowed, but if you're on a jury, you are obliged to presume the innocence of the defendant, which means you cannot presume that the witness is telling the truth. You have to look at the totality of the circumstances. Look, we know, we've seen case after case where women have told the truth and have been assaulted and men have gotten away with it, but we've seen case after case where women, for their own reasons, have lied. The Virginia case, the case in other cases, we've seen case after case.
Right.
And so we don't start with a presumption that there's a genetically linked characteristic for truth-telling and lying.
Good. We were getting pretty, you're starting to make me a little nervous. Professor, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. It was something we wanted clarified. Thank you. Well, in a case of peak irony, the Obama administration had a secret plan of attack in 2016 if Donald Trump refused to accept the election results. They were worried he wouldn't accept the election results. Of course, the left still doesn't accept the 2016 election result. A report from New York Magazine reveals that the Obama administration had a secret plan in place prior to the 2016 election. They feared that President Trump, if he lost, would not accept the results of that election. And so the administration plotted with several Republicans to, quote, validate the results and ensure an orderly transition of power. They also had another plan in case then candidate Trump disputed the results. They were going to whip out members of the so-called intelligence community to claim that Russia had weighed in on his behalf and therefore make his claims to victory seem less legitimate. Of course, in the end, he won, but they kept telling that story anyway. Russia, Russia, Russia. The point is, they've been planning that for a long time. Author and columnist Mark Stein joins us tonight to assess what this means. Mark, great to see you. So we learned that the whole Trump campaign wasn't legitimate because really Putin was running it. This was a storyline that was already ready to go before anyone voted.
Yes, I think what they're trying to do here, Tucker, is to reverse engineer an explanation as to why the governing party was investigating its political opponent, which is, of course, classic banana republic stuff. And as you say, the Russia collusion stuff was baked into the pie back in 2016. It isn't going anywhere, so they've now added this new wrinkle to it, which is that they were fearful that Trump, as the big loser, would not accept the result of the election. In fact, I think this is nonsense. They weren't worried about Trump losing. They were worried about him winning. But the point is they're trying to construct a narrative that explains why the ruling party were investigating the opposition.
But I wonder, what would that have looked like?
Banana republics.
So, how radical would Trump have gotten? If he had lost, would he have, say, written a book blaming everyone else but himself for his loss? Would he traveled the country for 2 years giving speeches, again, calling everyone who was against him a racist and calling the country stupid? Yes. Would he have gone that far?
Yes, I think he'd have worn ill-fitting pantsuits and gone on a tour of Montreal, Toronto, and Oxford University, because that's what that's what losing candidates seem to do. In fact, the people who do complain about losing the election are Democrats. If you recall, in 2000, Al Gore, late at night, called up George W. Bush and said he was asking for a recount. And Bush said, you mean you're retracting your concession? And Al Gore famously replied, there's no need to get snippy. Democrats are the ones who have actually contested the results of the election. There's not a lot of evidence that Donald Trump was doing that. He was just having a joke, as is his wont. And what's actually disturbing to me, because this is another sign of totalitarian societies, is when Trump makes an obvious joke like, hey, Vladimir Putin, if you're watching, maybe you could cough up those emails of Hillary's you've got. When he makes an obvious joke, intelligence agencies then say, oh, we need to investigate Trump's joke. That's actually what they did behind the Iron Curtain, yes. And it's a bit disturbing that it's now happening on this side of the Iron Curtain.
Whatever they're accusing you of doing is exactly what they're doing themselves. That turns out to be the one true rule about their behavior. Yeah. Mark Stein, it's always great to see you. Thank you for explaining that.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.
Oh, final exam up ahead. Can you beat our experts at remembering what happened last week? One of the great pairings of all time after the break. Well, you've waited all week. It's time now for Final Exam, where the best informed people in the news business sit across one another at a set to determine who's the best informed person in the news business. This week's contestants, Fox correspondent Kristen Fisher and the host of Special Report, Bret Baier. Now, you never miss an episode, so of course you know the rules, but for our viewers just tuning in, I'm going to repeat them. This is old hat for you. Hands on buzzers. I ask the questions. The first one to buzz in gets to answer the question. You must wait until I finish asking the question in order to answer it. You can answer once I acknowledge you by saying your name. Each correct answer is worth 1 point. Every incorrect detracts a point. Best of 5 wins. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Outstanding.
We're ready.
Good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Question 1. The art world was stunned this week when a painting by the graffiti artist Banksy was sold at auction. Something very odd happened once the gavel came down. What was it? Bret Baier.
No one bid.
No one bid. Did no one bid on the famous graffiti artist Banksy? To the tape.
$7,860.
This work of art, now it's been shredded, they believe it actually adds about 50% more to the value.
That's actually quite a brilliant prank.
That was the rest of the answer.
A prank, but that was because it's not a decadent art world or anything. All right, question 2. You know what? That says something good about both of you that you're not watching art auctions during the day. You've got work to do. All right, this is a multiple choice question number 2. Singer Taylor Swift has become political, as you know. She is urging her fans to vote against Tennessee Republican Marsha Blackburn next month. The president responded to this news by saying of Swift one of 3 things. Was it A, Taylor Swift is overrated, B, I like her music less now, or C, lock her up? Kristen Fisher.
B. He likes it 25% less.
I thought it was lock her up. We'll find out. To the tape, please.
Marsha Blackburn is doing a very good job in Tennessee. I'm sure Taylor Swift has nothing or doesn't know anything about her. And let's say that I like Taylor's music about 25% less now, okay?
It's nice. Good effort. Good effort.
Watching all of those tapes finally
Roughly
paying off.
25% less. Fantastic. All right, question 3, also taken from the world of pop culture. Kanye West under fire today for showing all of America his iPhone's passcode while on live television. Well, he met with the president in the White House. Kanye took out his phone and hit the same number 6 times in order to unlock it. What very unsecure number was it? Brett Baer.
0. Now, I don't know how many zeros it was. I think it was 0000.
But all zeros?
Zeros.
Was it all zeros?
And what we want to start with is, I brought
Wow. Not exactly secure.
6 zeros. Our judges say that's enough zeros. What we might be looking at is the comeback story of the week.
I know.
1-0.
1-0. That's right. You are back to stasis.
Goose egg.
Question 4. Starting this week, which former American president will come to life in the form of a 3D hologram here in Washington? Kristen Fisher.
Reagan.
Reagan?
Reagan.
An airport now a hologram?
At
Is
his
it
library.
Ronald Reagan.
Every 4 years, almost every Republican presidential hopeful invokes the spirit of President Reagan. Now at his library, that spirit has become a virtual reality. 3 holograms of President Reagan will make their first public appearance tomorrow.
Not sure this is connecting.
You know,
it's not connecting.
You know, you guys should have holograms for in here. You know, that way you don't
take more time off.
You know what? Let's get that in our contract, shall we?
You can have a Friday off.
Final question, this one also multiple choice. Frontier Airlines, the airline of the West, kicked off an Orlando woman from one of its flights this week after she boarded the plane with a prohibited animal. This multiple choice. What kind of animal was it? Was it A, a python?
Offensive foul.
Kristen
10 yards.
Fisher.
And the ball.
Kristen loses a point, and it goes to Brett.
Oh, dear. I could get the right answer.
Well,
Do I
you
get
can
another?
tie it up, in which case we need a tiebreaker. Wow. See, that's what I know. Trust me.
Horribly unfair.
That's right.
They're unfair, but those are the rules. It's like the Electoral College. It's in the Constitution, Kristen Fisher.
You have to do.
You can't change it. Okay, so
Here
Brett.
it is.
Did she refuse to fly without A, a python, B, a squirrel, or C, a raccoon?
A squirrel.
Was it B, a squirrel?
A woman was kicked off a flight after bringing an emotional support squirrel onto the plane. Frontier Airlines only allows dogs or cats, not unusual or exotic animals. I have been robbed.
I must say, it was self-larceny. It was. I said, it's multiple choice, and you knew the answer, and you got so excited.
I got eager.
Okay, so the script says that's it for this week. Exactly. Okay, so we have to go to the tiebreaker. We always have the same tie-breaking question. Okay? And if you watch the show before, you know it, so it's a test of that too. Yes, you do. Hands on buzzers, ready. Here's the tiebreaker. What is the capital of Burkina Faso? The African nation, Burkina Faso.
Seriously, this is the question.
This is seriously the question every time.
Has anybody ever gotten it?
No.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen tonight either. I don't have it.
It's Ouagadougou.
See, I was going to go with.
You were going to go with Ouagadougou.
I was just not sure.
You know what? Our judges are saying in this rare instance, as never before seen. Oh, wait, they're saying we have one more question. What is the capital of Madagascar?
Madagascar. The
Madagascar.
capital
Right.
is. Could you just Google that?
Okay, so
I have two
our judges are saying that no reasonably informed person should have to know either one of those answers. Therefore, for the first time in the history of this show, we have a split decision. We have an actual tie in which both of you get a medal, both of you claim the victory, both of you go home proud.
Wow, you know, this is quite the millennial.
It really is. Everybody wins. We only have one Eric Wemple mug, but this also, and they're saying this to me now, this requires at some point in the next 12 months you must come back for a rematch.
Fantastic.
Fair enough?
We'll
share.
A cup of coffee.
Amazing.
Look at this.
Our news division is so good they can't even beat each other.
So good we don't even know the
We will
capital
see
of
you
Madagascar.
back. And Brett, thank
Those
you.
capitals.
That's it for Final Exam. Pay attention to the news every week. Tune in every Thursday to see if you can top the experts. Not likely, but you can try. We'll be right back.